And I'm so glad that it's growing. It's like,
oh, there's 2 rows now.
2 rows. Well, we'll see. It always starts out strong. But well, class 6, people are like, what? There are things that you don't want to know about karma. Yeah, I'm John. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'm John. I got to Three Jewels 6, 7 years ago through a teacher training at Open Door. Actually, there was a student there that got me in front of a teacher who was teaching this kind of stuff, and that's all it took for me, was to hear her speak about a few crucial ideas that lit me up. So I've been doing it ever since. Actually, I think I can honestly say that, you know, and I had done a lot of meditating and a lot of stuff before that. And when she started talking, it was Mirashani, when she started talking about karma and emptiness, I felt like it was the first thing that anyone had ever said to me in this life that made sense to me. That really made sense to me. Everything else, there were holes. So it was the first thing. It hit me like a truck. Yeah. Yeah.
still alive.
Still alive, yeah. Are you comfortable back there? Do you want to move up closer?
No,
You're good?
Yeah, thanks. So. Thank you.
Okay. Good. So does everyone know about or have opening prayers? Are you taking care of that business? Okay. And you'll notice in the beginning of the class that we were prostrating. Don't worry about it if that's something that's not customary to you, or anyone that doesn't, yeah. Some of you will know. We're going to say some prayers before we start.
For notes taking and reading, would you like a little bit more light? Or
Yeah, let's get some more light.
gracias, amigo.
So it's customary, we'll say these prayers. We say them in Tibetan, we sing them in Tibetan, and usually one person will start and they'll say the first word and everyone joins in. You can think of it simply as the first prayer, you're offering something to enlightened beings, or you're offering something. And it's nice to think that you're offering a beautiful world, you know, offering something beautiful. We're typically offering the mandala, we're offering the whole world of beauty to an enlightened being in order to get teachings, and so that you understand them as well. So we'll all be doing this thing, and it's supposed to represent the whole world. And if you want to know how to do that, and if it looks too complicated, you can just make a bowl out of your hands and offer the world that way too. If you want to have fun, do this little mudra. There's an easy way to do it is you open your hands and then cross your pinkies, and then grab the ends of your pinkies with your thumbs, and then take your 2 ring fingers and then point them upwards like a mountain, and then cross your middle fingers, and then grab the ends of your middle fingers with your index fingers, and then you have it. Yeah.
That's what?
Okay.
Yeah. It's really cool.
So we'll open with the prayer, and then we'll move on to the second prayer. And then in the second prayer, you're asking enlightened beings to come. And assume that they're here. Assume that as soon as you ask them to come, they're in the room. If you want to get technical, you can think of a sky full of sesame seeds. That's how many there are, crammed in this room. It's easy for them. Hillary, could you lead us?
Sashi
Puki Jukshin Meto Tramriravlinshi Nyende Gambadi Sange Shindu Meteura Gidrokunanda Shimla Jupashok Yambura Namanavakam Niryatayami
Sange
Chudam Choki Choknamba Chanshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gipe Sunamki Jola Pinchir Sange Drupasho
Sange
Chudam Choki Choknamba Chanshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gipe Sunamki Jola Pinchir Sange Drupasho
Sange
Chudam Choki Choknamba Chanshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gipe Sunamki Jola Pinchir Sange Drupasho.
Just keep your eyes closed. Do a very short meditation. Be very comfortable. Take a deep inhale. Use that in-breath to draw your crown towards the sky. And then keep that length in your spine as you exhale. Relax your shoulders. And smile. Focus your mind now on your breath. Bring your mind's awareness to the tips of your nostrils. Watch the breath pass here. And don't control your breath. Just let it be as it is and watch it. If it slips away from the object, your breath, just bring it back. No worries. There's not going to be any homework or quizzes on your breath. Think about why you came here tonight. There's a million other things that you could be doing. Why did you choose to come here instead? There's a thing that we learn early on in the courses. It's supposed to be a good vessel to receive these kinds of ideas that were handed down for thousands of years. You're supposed to be a certain kind of pot, a certain kind of vessel. First off, you want your lid to be off. You don't want to be a closed lid pot. You want to be a clean vessel, clean pot. So your motivation is good. You're here to help yourself. You're here to help other beings by helping yourself. And you don't want to be a leaky pot either. You want to be able to retain the information. I think that most important, it's the lid off the pot. So try and have an open mind and just let the lineage pour into you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So it takes a certain kind of karma to hear these kinds of teachings and to be able to put them into practice. And so the whole thing about, you know, the lid on the pot. There's many ways that you can have a lid on the pot. Lid on the pot could be just sleepy. You know, if you don't have the right, I don't know, causes or the right karma in place, you could come to a teaching like this and just not get it. You could come with all the greatest intentions and it could just bounce off your head. I've been to teachings like my lamas, for instance. You know, sometimes, you know, I'll go there for 7 classes in a row and I feel like a live wire. You know, I'm like a rocket. Yeah, give it to me. And then 8th class, I get there, I'm just like, whoa. And it's not, you know, I had lots of coffee. It's not, you know, we're going to learn over this course about the fact that we're not, you know, in control in the moment. You can show up into a class with and really expect to be wide awake and you just fall asleep. Or just become distracted, or just not understand. So, you know, those are some ways that you can think of having a closed lid. Another way is, yeah, I know. I've done that one a lot. Yeah, I know. I've heard that one already 20 times. That's a mistake. You know, because generally in these kinds of classes, you're going to hear stuff that some of you it'll be new, some of it won't. Some of you it won't. In any case, these are ideas that have the potential to change your whole being. And by changing your whole being, changing your whole reality. And so, they say you have to hear the idea of emptiness like 7,000 times. The number keeps going up. Every year it gets bigger, the number. Until you can say that you're really starting to understand it. So, just a few little details. If you want, just so that you're not worried about it, at the end of the class, if you decide you'd like a binder, you can let Mishi know. We'll talk about it later, just so that you're not worried about it. Mishi will make sure that she takes a tally, and she'll make sure that enough binders get here, and then you can bring the money the next week or something like that. We'll work that out. And this is generally how this works. You get your binder, you don't read ahead, okay? You come to class, listen to the teaching. If you miss it, you can get it on Ustream or on the internet. Or ACI, the ACI Dharma, Asa Dharma. You hear the class, then you read the reading, and the readings are stunning. They're stunning. And generally, you probably won't understand the reading unless you have certain kind of karma, unless you've heard the class, generally speaking. Then you do your homework based on the notes you've taken in class, or the notes that are very conveniently in the binder. There's these amazing notes in the binder that were taken by a student in like 1994 or something, John Stillwell. You could almost teach the class off those notes, really. They're so amazing. And I have before. I forgot my binder one time. But yeah, you can do that. And then once you've done your homework, then you do the quiz, but not without looking at, You do your homework, then you get someone to mark it, and then you can study the answer key before you do your quiz. And then you do your quiz. And after all that's all done, at the end you do your final. And if you follow that little program, you'll know your stuff. It will be in you. And there's some people in the room that can contest to that you'll be amazed. A year later, 2 years later, someone will ask you a question, and it will just be there for you. The answer will be there because of the way that you went through the information. So that's the shtick on homeworks and quizzes, if you decide to go that way. And you don't have to. Coming here does not mean you need to do your homework and quizzes. You can come and go as a blessing, whatever. Anytime you want to show up, totally fine. Bring all your friends. No big deal. But if you do intend on doing the homework and it excites you, stay on top of it. That's also a mistake. To get behind in your homework. I think I was 3 courses in by the time I figured that out when I first started. And then it was a bit of a madhouse for me for a while. So if you do intend on, and it doesn't take much. If you're starting now or it doesn't take much, a couple hours, and you can be caught right up on top of it, and then it's no sweat. But it gets pretty intimidating when you've got 4 or 5 homeworks behind, and it starts to get so you don't want to even go there at all, because it's just, okay, that's my homework speech. So, ACI 5, how karma works. So, generally on the first class, what we usually do is we'll go over a synopsis of what the whole course will be. Okay? So you know what you're going to get. They always do this. Buddhists always do that. In the very beginning, this is what you're going to get. And then they give you all the hard stuff. You're like, when am I going to get it? You know? But you get it. We're going to do that, and then we're going to have an introduction to Abhidharma after we do that. So there are 5 great books that they study in the monastery. And the Abhidharma Kosha, which is what we're going to be studying in this course, is one of them. Now, this will be something foreign to some of you, but the Abhidharma Kosha is a detailist presentation, it's a detailist school. So we study different schools, right? And they all have unique and different ideas. And the Buddha taught them all. So they're all valid, but some of them are incomplete. You can say it that way. Some of them are incomplete, and we say that the highest school, they call it the upper middle way, or the Madhyamika Prasangika, which is what we've been studying often, is the highest school. But you don't have to worry about this. This isn't homework. It's just going to get you, because there's some people in the room that have been studying, and we're going to be going to like a different school, and you may hear some things that contradict slightly some of the ideas that we talked about in last class about valid pramana, stuff like that. So at this point, we've studied 2 courses already on Madhyamika. Okay, the higher, yeah, that's right. And we've also studied lower Madhyamika, and we've had 1 course in the Sutra school. So this is new. Abhidharma is a new school for us. So it's like you put a new hat on, and as they say, you would now have to defend that school. If you were, you can't like let your Madhyamika head come in here now. And why? Why did the Buddha teach all these different schools and different ways of explaining Buddhism? What do you suppose that? Why would he do that? Anyway, take a guess if you don't want to. Leonardo.
Different ways of learning. People learn differently.
Yeah, and yeah, they learn differently, and also different capacity. Different capacity. It takes a certain kind of mental capacity and a certain kind of karma, you could say, to understand the highest ideas of emptiness. And each school lends itself, you know, into the other. And, you know, it's just like, you know, you teach someone the basics first before you hit them with the full thing, right? Like a yoga class, you know. First you get them on all fours before you put them in a down dog, right? It's like that. So in the monastery, the Abhidharma Kosha usually isn't until the 16th year of 20 years of study. And ideally, what we're going to be doing is, this is typically supposed to be a 5-year course. All these 18 courses is supposed to typically take 5 years. And we're trying to study, supposedly, like one of the schools or one of the books, one of the 5 books each year, like 5 times. Is that confusing? I'm confused. So each book once a year.
There's 5 books.
Yeah, there's 5 books, each book once a year. Okay. And we're studying the 4th chapter of the Abhidharma Kosha, which is karma. Which Geshe Makarochi is saying is probably the best introduction to karma aside from Jason Kappa's book on the Lam Rim Chenmo. And for those of you who don't know, Jason Kappa is our big hero, one of our big heroes, maybe the big hero. He started the whole Gelugpa lineage. He started the whole lineage of the Dalai Lamas. He started the whole thing. And a direct student of Jason Kappa, the first Dalai Lama, actually wrote the commentary that we're going to be using in this class. Okay, so tonight's class, we're going to talk about what Abhidharma means and the school of philosophy we're studying. And class 2, we're going to study what is karma. We'll talk about the movement of the mind. The Abhidharma school, they have this belief in certain colors and shapes that have to do with your ethics and your morality, okay, which is a unique idea to the school. They have a belief in a certain kind of energy form that is present in a certain kind of person that is keeping a certain kind of morality, that is actually something that is made up of some physical matter. Okay, this is unique to this school, and I like it. Class 3. Maybe it's like an aura, you know? Maybe you could think of it as like an aura. Something like that, akin to that. We'll dive into that anyway. So class 3, we're going to get into bad deeds and good deeds and how those affect you. And we'll see who's left after that class. And then class 4, we're going to study certain results that you get from certain acts that you do. So what you get, right? What you get from what you do, the things that you can get from what you do. And there are some things that you're like guaranteed to get for doing certain things. We'll go into that. Class 5, this is a very interesting topic, and that is how karma is carried. So if you're going to call yourself a Buddhist, and it's going to function for you at all, you have to buy into past and future lives. Everything that you're going to hear, everything that we talk about really revolves on the truth of there has to have been past lives and there has to be future lives, or none of this is going to make any sense. Yeah, there's many ideas that they teach us, you know, and one of them is that every living being has been your mother countless times. So in order for that to happen, there's no way you're going to buy that even for a second unless you have, unless you can embrace that you have had countless past lives. And we'll talk about that kind of thing. Okay. Anyways, for how karma is carried, we're going to get away from the Abhidharma Kosha and dive more into Jason Kappa. Because the Abhidharma Kosha, they say, doesn't really give a very, very complete description of how it is that karma is somehow carried in your mind through time, and as you die and reborn, somehow the karma, right? Somehow you have the karma to be born into a rich family, or somehow you have the karma to be born, you know, on the streets of Calcutta. You know, something causes that. There's something that carries through, and how? How? So Jason Kappa does a very in-depth mind-only presentation on that, which we're going to use, and that'll be class 5. So show up for class 5 if you want to know about that. Class 6, more Jason Kappa, and that is the explanation between karma and emptiness. In this class, Geshe Michael Roach doesn't really ever describe what emptiness is, because I think everyone that is in his class has heard it about 10 million times. But I'm guessing there's a couple people here, maybe, or one, that doesn't, I'm saying emptiness, and they're like, what? Put up your hand. Right. Yeah, right. Okay. This is very important for you to know this. In Buddhism, we're always talking karma and emptiness, karma and emptiness, karma and emptiness. And when we say emptiness, we're talking about, you can think of emptiness as ultimate potential. You can think of it that way. But I'll give you an example. Remember when I said you have to hear the pen 7,000 times? Well, this is one. Some of them in this room, it's like 512. But if I have a pen in here, yes. Okay. What is this? It's a pen. Right, it's a pen. If a dog walked in the room, what would the dog see?
Something to chew on.
Something to chew on. If, let's just say, someone in the depths of the jungle who's never been to civilization at all, never even seen anything like this before, walked up and saw this, what would they see?
Weapon.
Could be tool, weapon, right?
Plastic.
Maybe, well, maybe they might not know what plastic is. They might not know, I mean, maybe they know plastic. You know. Maybe they have iPods in the jungle, I don't know. A baby, right? Food, maybe. Yeah. So here's the question: who's right? Sure, everyone. Everyone's right, but also everyone's wrong. Everyone's right and everyone's wrong unless they understand that pen is not in this pen. There is no pen, there's no penness inside this pen. Okay? If this thing had penness emanating from this thing, what would a dog be forced to see? A pen. A baby would somehow know this is a pen. Okay? So emptiness is a very, very slippery idea, very life-changing idea. And emptiness is not something that's in this pen. Emptiness is something that is not in this pen. Lydia goes, right? Emptiness is a lack of something. Emptiness is something that isn't there. And because pen is not shining out of this thing, then this could be anything. You've heard of some of you have heard of the Buddha Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, teaches wisdom. And in the paintings of Manjushri, he's always carrying a sword of wisdom, it cuts through ignorance. Well, this could be Manjushri's sword too. Ignorance. Ignorance, basic ignorance. The idea that things are coming at you, not from you. Because guess what? If penness is not coming from the pen, where the heck's it coming from? You see a pen, don't you? Where's it coming from? It ain't coming from the pen, right? Why is it coming? So the question we're going to find out in this class is why? Why do I see a pen? Why do I see Manjushri's sword? Why do why does a dog want to chew on it? Karma. So in this class we will learn the kinds of karmas that we have been doing that make us only see a pen. And the karmas that we could do to definitely force us to want to chew on it. And we'll learn about how to upgrade your karma, how to turbocharge your karma. So that's a very, very brief emptiness teaching, okay? So one more subtle idea, who cares? Yeah, it's a pen, okay? But the reason why we use a pen is because we have pens. We see pens, okay, yeah, the guy said the pen, great. But it's good because you see pens a lot. Maybe you'll remember. But what about your husband? What about your boyfriend? What about your wife? What about your girlfriend? What about your kids? What about your boss? What about the person on the bus? Right? If there's no pen coming from here, could there be irritating person coming from the person that's irritating? Is that possible? Are you going to tell me now that, yes, John, I agree with you, it makes perfect sense that, yeah, okay, I get that. That pen's not really coming, but that person is irritating as hell. You can't, right? This is why it's important. If you can understand that the same way you're throwing pen onto this object, you're throwing irritating onto the irritating person. You're throwing beautiful onto the beautiful person. You're throwing ugly on the ugly person. It's you. If you can get that, your reality will simply turn on its axis, and your whole reality will change quickly. And that's why in chapter 6, class 6, we talk about karma and emptiness, and that the two are two sides to the same coin. There's no karma without emptiness, and there's no emptiness without karma. And Jason Kappa, he gets very fanatical about that idea. That it's a very, very, very mistaken view to think that you can talk about karma without talking about emptiness, and vice versa. Class 7, we're going to talk about black and white karma. black and white deeds. We're going to talk about path karma. There's different kinds of karma. There's ripened karma, non-ripened karma, path karma. We'll also get into the 10 non-virtues. 10 things that you should never do. What are they, people?
Killing.
Killing,
Stealing.
stealing,
Lying.
lying,
Sexual
sexual misconduct,
Harsh speech.
bit of speech,
Harsh speech.
harsh words,
Idle talk.
idle speech,
Wrong view.
wrong view,
Ill will.
ill will.
Craving.
Craving.
They say we have like 84,000 mental afflictions, and those are the top 10. They all come down to the top 10. And wrong worldview, number 10, is like, in a way, the head of them all. Because it's like having, when I say wrong worldview, I'm talking about thinking that the world is coming at you, not being created from you, not being seen by you, not being labeled by you. It is the wrong view that thinking that, okay, well, just a short example. Okay, let's switch over to chocolate. Okay, I see this and I'm thinking yummy. Is the yumminess in the bar?
No.
Somebody give me a very quick proof on why the yumminess ain't in the bar.
Because I don't see
Reach
this
doesn't
yet.
like it.
Yeah.
Or half 10.
You ate
What's that?
10 kilogram of this
Half
yummy.
10.
Have 10, right? Or have 10, right? That's a good point. Yeah. Yumminess is in the bar until I eat 10 of them. Right? Which I haven't tried yet. But so it's a wrong view to think that yumminess is I can get pleasure, I can get something from this bar that will make me happy, right? It's also a wrong view to think that irritating things are coming from outside things, right? Because if you believe that, then we behave in insane ways, right? We behave in insane. We're all doing it. We're behaving in. I'm sorry to tell you, but you're acting in insane ways, right? And that it's causing the wheel to go round and around. It's causing the wheel to go round and around. Every time that you get up in the morning and think that you're going to go to work, and work's going to make you happy, or work's going to, somehow you'll go to work, or you're in a relationship so that they make you feel good. And if you think that that's what's going on, then you're making a big mistake. And you know that's true because eventually they stop making you feel good. So where was the feel-goodness coming from? If it was coming from them, they would always make you feel good. They would never change. So cutting that idea off saves yourself from that, from believing those kinds of things and acting in ways to get things that don't work. Right? Putting an awful lot of effort into things that don't work. Again and again and again. And all it takes is these kinds of classes enough times to like crank open the lid and pop it off, and then pretty soon you'll stop doing that. You have a different kind of a mind. Class 8, we're going to be talking about, it's called most basic virtue, or the storehouse of, they call it the storehouse of karma, the kunchi, the storehouse of karma that you have. And and certain actions that you can do to destroy it. There are certain things that you can do that actually destroy a certain amount of karma that you've built up. We'll talk about the 2 different kinds of energy that karma has. Class 9, we'll talk about the 5 immediate misdeeds. These are good to know. The 5 immediate misdeeds are things that you can do in your life, and if you do them, you're guaranteed to go, after you die, straight to hell. You'll have a bardo experience for a while, but then you don't have another rebirth. You go right down into the lowest hells. And there are things like killing your mom, killing your dad, heavy duty stuff. I think the chances of anyone doing them in this room are pretty slim, but it's good to know so you avoid them. It's good to know these 5 things, right? We talk a lot about schism and sangha in that class. Schism and the sangha is a particularly nasty, bad deed. And you, according to scripture, you can't actually create a schism in the sangha, because to create a schism in the sangha actually has to happen at the time of the Buddha, when the Buddha was around. But you can do things that are like that. And because of the minds that many of us have, we're prone to certain things like having divisive thoughts about your fellow students. Like, so you can still divide a sangha in today's world by simply splitting dharma practitioners, creating some kind of division between people who are studying. And they say that is a particularly heinous deed that gets you into all kinds of trouble. Criticizing your fellow students. And the beauty of this kind of work that we do, play, is you can practice enough so that your mind becomes so subtle, you become so aware of your actions, that you become aware of even a thought that you may have about another practitioner. That's like, oh, they're so like, they don't get it. They don't get it. What do you think, what's that going to do for you? That's just a thought. That's just a thought. But that is like, that is an act of violence against your very being. To pass judgment, actually, to pass judgment on any being, I don't care who it is violence against yourself, against your own self. And it's interesting that all of these ideas that we talk about, and the whole world, the whole outer world is like a manifestation of all your inner world. So then we work kind of from both angles, right? So you stop the violence in your world. If you want to stop the violence in your world, stop being violent in your mind. So it's beautiful how it always works out like that. It always works out like that. Eventually you'll do meditations and where you're collapsing things, right? They say when you die, a whole universe collapses. Well, it's the universe that you see. It's the pen that you see. The pen that you see no longer exists when you die. So if everything comes back to this tiny little thing in your mind, if everything comes back down here, then every movement of your mind is affecting your whole reality, right? So you can affect your own reality by simply, slowly but surely affecting and modifying your subtle movements of your mind and perfect your whole world. Just by that. So yeah, don't think bad things about other people. And if you do, remember where they're coming from. And that fixes it right away. If you make a judgment on them and you think, wait a minute, what did John say about the pen? Oh, what I'm thinking about them, that's me. Sorry to break the news to you. But it was never them. Ever. It was never them. And it won't ever be them. So class 10, we'll talk about what deeds are more serious than other ones. What makes some bad deeds more or less bad deeds, and what makes a good deed, and how they can become worse or better. All right. So we're going to quickly talk about this word, Abhidharma Kosha. It's a Sanskrit word. In Sanskrit, they put all the words together. Like if there's an a between a word, they just clump the whole thing together. So it's kind of hard to read them. Sometimes you read a Sanskrit word and it's like, you know, it's just insane. But in Tibetan, it's Chu Nungpadzu. Say Chu Nungpadzu.
Chu Nungpadzu.
Abhidharma Kosha.
Abhidharma Kosha.
So Abhi, we're going to speak mainly about the Sanskrit. Abhi means like leading up to. And Dharma has many, many meanings. In this case, it means nirvana and the knowledge that brings you to that state of nirvana. Ultimate peace, nirvana. No mental afflictions. And kosha means treasure house. In this case, it means like a great collection. A great collection of all the greatest ideas in one place, a treasure house. So the author of this book is Master Vasubandhu. Master Vasubandhu. And they're not actually completely clear on his dates. 350 AD approximately. They're so unsure about his dates that they think there might be two of them. Two Master Vasubandhus. Because this is a Hinayana book, okay? There's Hinayana and Mahayana. Hinayana is like a, you could say Hinayana is a school where people, they want to become enlightened, they want to stop their suffering, they want to become enlightened, but purely for their own sake, right? They can't generally handle the thought of doing it for every other living being. And Mahayana, the greater way, what separates those two schools is basically the same thing, wanting to become a Buddha, but for the sake of every other living being, as well as yourself. So the Abhidharma Kosha is a Hinayana school. But Master Vasubandhu was not a Hinayana practitioner. He was actually a Mahayana practitioner. Some say that he wrote the Abhidharma Kosha as an apology for putting down the Hinayana. I don't know if it's true. But they say that that's where they say that maybe there was two Master Vasubandhus because there's certain styles that were written and they're so different that there's some conjecture that maybe there's actually two of them. But maybe they're just same emanation. I mean, two emanations of the same being. I don't know. But Master Vasubandhu, him and his brother, Master Asanga, they're responsible for like the greatest books in Buddhism, I guess, except for Jason Kappa's Lanman Chenmo. And it's a neat story about those two guys. They were brothers, half brothers actually. And their mom was a nun who had a vision, a dream, that a clairvoyance, that if she disrobed and gave birth, her two sons would become great Buddhist practitioners. In a time where Buddhism was falling apart and getting all foggy, and so she disrobed, and she had one child with a king and one child with a Brahmin. And one was Master Vasubandhu and one was Master Asanga. And they ended up being two of the greatest Buddhist scholars of all time to this day. So it's kind of a neat story about how that went down. So the Abhidharma Kosha, as we said earlier, is a detailist school. We'll get more into this school thing. Don't sweat the school thing too much. We'll get more into it later in this course. Detailist is English. You can also say the Vaibhashikas. The Vaibhashikas. Don't need to know that. You can just say detailist. You don't need to know the Sanskrit. The detailist. So the Abhidharma Kosha is one of the main books, if not the main book, that most Buddhist schools use to study Abhidharma. And we'll talk about what that means, what Abhidharma actually means. We'll talk about that a little later in class today. I didn't write it down, but Master Vasubandhu, his Sanskrit, I mean his Tibetan name is Lopon Yiknyen. Say Lopon Yiknyen. That's his Tibetan name. So, let's talk about Abhidharma Kosha, the word. Geshe Michael Roach says that there have been many books written about Abhidharma, about the Abhidharma Kosha, actually, and not many of them are right, according to him. So the up to part, we're referring to like approaching something, coming up to something, getting close to something, just about to reach something, okay? So the word dharma actually also means all existing things. Dharma is like, the root for dharma is dur, which means to hold its own nature. So that's what they say, like anything that has its own identity, they call it a dharma. You know, like Breeze is a dharma. Johnny Five is a dharma. Johnny Five is the camera. If you saw Short Circuit, you know what I meant. So the highest of all existing objects in this school is nirvana. So here, dharma means nirvana and the knowledge that brings you to a state of nirvana. Learning dharma, teaching dharma, and learning dharma keeps you out of the lower realms, keeps you out of the doors of the lower realms. if you're in higher schools, the highest dharma is Buddhahood. In this school, highest dharma is nirvana. And another thing that you should know, in this school, in the Vaibhashika school, emptiness is not emptiness, it's called no self.
In this school?
No self. And it's slightly different. You can have a direct perception of no self, and you can also have a direct perception of emptiness, and they're slightly different. And with slightly different results. So Abhidharma minus the kosha means the thing that takes you to nirvana. The thing that takes you to nirvana. And what is the main thing that you need to reach nirvana? And remember, for the people that don't know in this class, what is the definition of nirvana?
Cessation.
Cessation of?
Your mental afflictions and that within yourself permanently.
Yeah.
That's all.
So no more mental afflictions. You're in nirvana. Common mistake is to think that nirvana is in New York and not in Vancouver. Okay? To think that nirvana is not in this room is a mistake. It's a mistaken view. You can have nirvana and you can have samsara in the same room, simultaneously. Okay? Because samsara, the opposite of nirvana, like the cycle of pain, guess what? That isn't anywhere either. That's you. You are samsara or you are nirvana. Okay? You're a walking samsara bomb or you're a walking nirvana bomb. Either one. Okay? It's not a nightclub downtown. Although it should be. So, what is the main thing that you need to reach nirvana?
To see it into this truth.
Yeah. So, wisdom. You need wisdom. You need to understand the pen thing really, really, really well. You need to understand it so well, in fact, that you can know that truth without thinking about it, without having to have an intellectual thought about it. In order to do that, you need to see emptiness directly. We'll talk more about that, but not so much today. So, knowledge of wisdom. So, Abhidharma also refers to the wisdom that understands emptiness. Or in this school, the wisdom that understands selflessness. So why they call it a kosha, a treasure house, is because one of the amazing thing that Master Vasubandhu did is he collected all the jewels, they say. Okay? He collected all the jewels, all the teachings he could find on Abhidharma, and he put them in one place. He said that there were seven original books on Abhidharma written or spoken by the direct disciples of the Buddha, like, Shariputra and the Heart Sutra. Dudes like that. They wrote books on the Abhidharma, 7 original books. We don't have them anymore. They're lost to the world. Some of them are still here. We don't have all of them. Master Vasubandhu got them all, collected them, and put them into this one book, which is how we get Treasure House of Knowledge. And that's what Abhidharma Kosha means. Treasure House of Knowledge, or Treasure House of Wisdom. And that, folks, smells a lot like Homer. Of the 5 great Buddhist texts that we study, 2 of them are Hinayana. Okay? Abhidharmakosha and Vinaya. And Vinaya is the monk's vows. Okay? This course in the monk's vows, that's Hinayana. And the other books are Mahayana. And the Buddha did teach Mahayana. The Buddha did teach Abhidharmakosha. There's 250 earlier commentaries on the Buddha's speech of him directly speaking sutra of Abhidharma. And apparently the Abhidharmakosha, if you had your hands on it, it's a long, long book, a list of categories, and another one of those amazing list books. And this is level 1, right? I think ACI 8 is level 2, and we dive into, I mean, God, the book goes into, we'll talk about it actually in this class, all the chapters, what it covers. It covers all of existence, everything that's going on, including time, light years, and everything. So the detailists, the reason why they're called the detailists, or the Vaibhashikas, it's because that their main study was a book called The Explanation of Detail, and they loved that book. And so they became the detailists. Which is their main school, Engage with Abhidharma.
Who's that book by?
I don't know, he doesn't mention that. And the Sutrists, the Sautrantikas, they disagreed with the Vaibhashikas. They say, no, that stuff's all made up. We only believe in what the Buddha said in the sutras. So they're called Sutrists because they only believe in what the Buddha said. And then the mind-only school, and they don't really believe in just mind only, everything is just mind. It sounds like that's what they do, but they don't. And that will also be up for later discussion. And then you have Majjhimika. So those are the 4 schools right there. The detailists, the sutrists, mind only, and Majjhimika.
High school Majjhimika.
Madhhyamika.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we spoke about that earlier, everything the Buddha taught was to a certain capacity, whoever was there. And you can think of them as stepladders up to the highest understandings. Because if you don't do that, right? If you don't understand the basic ideas and get up to slowly build yourself up to being able to handle the fact that the pen is not out there the way that it appears to be out there, and what that means, you can freak out. And you can fall off the cliff and just like, well, then nothing matters. The pen doesn't really exist. It doesn't matter what I do. I can do anything I want to. Nothing exists, so I can justify anything. And people do that. People can, or you can flip out and go right in the other direction. It's like, no, things are as they appear. And that's why Majjhimika is the middle way. They go right down the middle. One more point before we take a break. The main commentary that we're using to study the Abhidharmakosha is by the first Dalai Lama, Jason Koppa's student, the first Dalai Lama. It's called Tarlam Salje. Say Tarlam Salje. In English, that is Illumination of the Path to Freedom. Illumination of the Path to Freedom. By Gyalwa Gendun Drup. Gyalwa Gendun Drup. The first Dalai Lama. 1391 to 1474. So his name is Gendrum Drup, but they don't ever refer to him as Gendun Drup. You know, that'd be like saying, that would be like calling Geshe-Maka Roach Mike, right? Gyalwa means victorious one, or Buddha, basically. You know, like Jay Tsongkhapa, right? Lord Tsongkhapa. Gyalwa Gendun Drup. And his claim to fame is this commentary. And there's a beautiful story about his life. He was born in a peasant camp of yak herders. Picture it in your mind. A peasant camp of yak herders in the mountains, right? And they were attacked by some bandits. I wonder what they wanted.
They're yaks.
They're yaks, I guess. I guess the yaks was richness, right? Sure. A lot of butter. So they took the yaks. I don't know. I'm running a screenplay right now. They came in, they took the yaks. Anyways, his mother threw him in a cradle and left him out in the wilderness somewhere. Yeah. And they say that a huge bird came and protected him. And that's the end of the story. So they don't know when he wrote it in his life, but he did write it. And that is a good time for a break. Running out of dance floor.
Never.
Never.